Guys, I was probably sitting here for like 10 minutes now, just sitting at the screen in front by the mic, looking at the screen, struggling to click that live button. Um, yeah, we need to humble ourselves as a fan base. I think first and foremost, after that victory in the first test at Lords, um, should have taken the hints from the fact that Jimmy Anderson has his own end at the ground that we were playing at, and maybe backed our seam attack instead of the spin. In fact, we listened to a slight fan expert about the ground that gave us false information about this ground of having two spinners. That's coming on the show a little later to gloat. But we're going to be discussing this particular match, of course. We're going to get into everything about this second test at Old Trafford. It's such a pity that it was out at Old Trafford that this happened as well. Um, yeah, let's talk about everything. We're going to get into it. We're going to talk about everything in depth, what lost us the match, what Dean Alga had to say afterwards. I listened to his little interview afterwards with Mike Atherton, and I'm going to report back and tell you guys what he had to say. You probably will hear the same answers in the press conference, which we will provide you a little later on when it gets released to us. But before we get going, before we get started to this channel, even in the difficult times, guys, please support us and subscribe this channel. Click that notification bell for all future videos as well. Smash that like button, please. Get involved with the live chat. Comment on the video after it's gone live. Go download our latest issue of Cricket Fanatics magazine monthly. Every issue is 100% free straight to your inbox every month. The link is on the screen as well as in the description. And help us grow and promote South African cricket today by becoming a Patreon. We also have updates, reports, etc. on the site. So go to cricketfanaticsmag.com for that as well. So let's get straight into today's video, guys. Not really looking forward to it, but it has to be done. Someone has to do it. A very good evening and welcome to Cricket Fanatics Magazine. This is your review show. I'm your host, Khalid, and this is the show where we talk about everything that has to do with the second test between South Africa and England at Old Trafford. South Africa losing this match quite significantly. It was actually a slap. We were bullied, completely bullied in every facet of the game. This is the match summary for you guys. South Africa scored 151 in their first innings. And then England came back and 415 for 9 declared. And South Africa's reply, pathetic. 179 again, 42 and 41 from Rassie van der Dussen, who had a broken finger. And yeah, that was the game. And basically, it started off with a bad decision at the beginning that we can probably talk about. But I'm going to stick to my assessment of it. It was bad batting that lost us this game, guys. Bad batting, not the decision to want to go and try and get to spinners in and all of those type of things. Yes, perhaps we could have went with the England route, going with the idea of trying to bowl first, of course, get them out early, and then maybe use our part-time spinner if it does break up and you don't win the game within 3 days. England went in with a mentality before this game even started. They went in with a mentality that no, we're going to give these batters a problem. We're going to bowl them out. We're going to put on the runs on the board when the pitch is getting flatter, and then we're going to completely destroy them by bowling them out again. So that's exactly what happened. That's ended up happening. But today, the show is not going to be about my rant. I'll have plenty of time tomorrow evening on the podcast show to give my own opinions, etc. Calm down, talk about it with everybody. This is about you tonight. So the banner I'm going to be putting up on the screen, that means that that the call chat is open for you guys to be able to call in and have your say. And the link is in the live chat for you guys to click on that and have your say, of course, with us. But let's get into this one. First and foremost, let me just update you quickly. I need to update you on the news that just broke as well. Sorry, I forgot to tell you about that as well. Give me 2 seconds to just get that up for you. It is about Rassie van der Dussen. And the report that was given to us is that the Proteas batter Rassie van der Dussen has been ruled out of the remainder of the Test series against England due to a fracture of his left index finger. Van der Dussen sustained the injury while fielding on the opening day of the second Test against England at Emirates Old Trafford in Manchester on Thursday. He will return to South Africa to consult a finger specialist who will then guide him on further medical management. Imperial Lions all-rounder Vian Mulder has been added to the squad. Okay, let's get the guys on the show. Okay, first and foremost, welcome to the show, Aaron. Aaron, I'm going to give you, and welcome to the show, Lorenzo. Aaron, I'm going to give you plenty of time to gloat and tell us how amazing this performance was. First and foremost, let's just get the South African angle out of the way. Lorenzo, how are you feeling? The show is about the fans tonight. I'm not going to be giving my rants. Take it away, son. Okay, so
Or not.
it's such a beautiful setup. Like I was focusing on not stuttering my words. I was trying to make focus that I wasn't making too many irritating noises on the mic. I was actually told that early on, guys, that I make the sound on the mic that I didn't know that I make. It's like a apparently it's a sound that I sometimes make.
I
And
haven't picked up on that.
apparently that is the case. So I'm trying to work on it, guys. It can only get better as time goes on. Okay, let's get the England side of things out of the way. First and foremost, congratulations to Ben Stokes, man of the series by far, in my
But
opinion. I think he basically everything that he did in this match went the in his favor. Beautiful batting performance. He took key wickets at key times in both innings. I think it was an excellent performance all around from the skipper. And I'm not saying that yes, there are other performers here today. Ben Folks as well that performed well. Your bowlers, Ollie Robinson. We were actually fed false information about Ollie Robinson on the show. I said adding him will add extra space actually into the attack. I thought, that that was would be the case. But I was then told that he's a 120s bowler.
no, he's not.
That and that isn't the case, and I should have trusted my gut because I remember him bowling 135s, close to 140s. So that was that was the differentiation between us, between you guys in the first test, I think, and the second is that extra bit of pace also, and the bounce that Ollie Robinson naturally produces. Lorenzo's back. I'm going to give him another shot, Aaron.
Yeah, absolutely fine.
Lorenzo, I gave you like almost a Kevin De Bruyne assist there, and then you kicked off the show. What happened there, bro?
Sorry, man. So it's just the Wi-Fi. Yeah,
No
first of
problem.
all, I just want to say congratulations, Aaron. I think you guys deserved the win. I think you played us out of the park the whole 3 days. So just congratulations, buddy. Coming back to South Africa, I just feel very very deflated. Yesterday, Khalid, I said no excuses from the boys. I think that was a road today. It was flat.
Mhm.
Even you could even saw when Stokes was bounces the ball. It was flat. It wasn't carrying through as it was on day one or up in Lords. So I just feel our batters need a serious reality check. And then just coming on to what I said yesterday, Khalid. So what is the plan forward now? We have okay, Rasiva the is out, right? So obviously Ryan Rickleton, obvious he will play, right? But the thing is
Oh,
this,
I
Khalid.
hope they pick him. I hope they don't
They
go with.
better.
Oh, I'm gonna get really upset if they don't pick him, and
To
they
be honest, they
decide to
could
Now
pick
I'm
pick
sure
something
both him
else.
and Kaya.
Exactly, that's what I'm
They
thinking
could
as
do.
well.
That's what
Um,
they should do.
if both, yes, but if it's between the two, it's Ryan, in my opinion.
no, I th-
Just want
no,
to
I
put
think
it
I
out
think
there.
Ryan will definitely play and 100%. He's informed better in England as well. But the other thing is this: we're sitting with a bit of a conundrum or a good situation to be in. Vian Mulder is added to the squad as well now. And Aaron, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but did he score two double hundreds or one?
He scored one for Leicestershire, but he's been in great form, brilliant form.
Yes. So what I can see happening going forward for the last stage at the Oval is I definitely Ryan Rickles will play, But I can see that. I can see Vian Mulder maybe replacing Markram as well. I can see that. But I wouldn't go that route because Kaya Zondo has been there, and
Yeah,
you should get. For me, you should get a shot. I think
yeah.
Markram should be dropped, guys. I'm having none of this tonight.
I mean, at this
This
point, anybody
going
can be
on
dropped. Eh?
ability, no. Say again.
Anybody can be dropped in the top six, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Like at the moment,
definitely. But
I mean, we can give some leeway to Carl and Keegan, I think, because
yes,
they're
to
new to the
KP.
team. But the
Keegan played
others,
well,
but the others, yeah, but to the others, and obviously Rassi played well today.
and he
But
was
still,
injured.
and he was
You'd
injured
have to
too.
factor that in.
But
Yes.
Markram,
So my
oh, I don't know anymore.
so my
I love
change,
you.
I
I
would.
love you, Markram. By the way, just I want you to come right.
We all do, but that's the thing. It's a case of we want him to succeed, but when he's not succeeding, and you've got
Yep.
players there who can fit that mould and come in for that South African side, you've got to give them a chance. That's just cricket. I mean,
Mm,
we obviously all like him. He was meant to be South Africa's next big superstar. He's still got the potential to fulfil that destiny, but at the time being,
yeah.
his technique, his temperament are not right for Test cricket right now. And there are players who are champing at the bit for that number 4 spot.
Yeah.
So yeah,
But
South Africa have a
Aaron,
big
even
decision to make.
Aaron, he should have been dropped as an opener already because he wasn't getting
Yeah.
runs. And then he should have now at the moment he got switched to a number four, should be dropped now as well. I mean, I'm a big fan of Aiden Markram, but I do feel that um, all of these distractions and all of these things around him is affecting his longer format game. What made it so amazing for him the last time around in his first stint is, and I forgot about that, and I was listening to people speak about it this morning before the game started. It's so important that they play red ball cricket when they are not playing international cricket. Because the problem is that our players are not staying in form when they do get in form. And they switch formats. They go play T20 cricket tournaments all around, and they're playing this World Cup and the T20 World Cup and then the 50 over, and they're constantly changing their games around. And then they have to prepare themselves for a red ball team without any ready practice. All they get is a warm up game beforehand. So that also because of the lack of the amount of test cricket that we play is also we don't have as much. So the experience doesn't spread as fast. There's a lot of the reasons why, but the reasons shouldn't be excuses. The reasons should be lessons to move forward with. That's what I think. I like to analyze reasons so that we know what can get fixed. I don't you like the reasons as excuses. I'd rather want to take those reasons as ways to learn. And that's what I like about what Dean said afterwards. He said there's a lot of lessons to take from this to learn. The only thing, though, Lorenzo, that I want to ask you, and Aaron, I want to ask you too. Dean Alga still stuck to his guns in his pre-match interview. He still said that he doesn't think that picking the second spinner, and he doesn't think that picking making the decision to bat first was the issue. They should have applied themselves better with the bat, and that's exactly what I said. Um, I believe that that is the whole tipping point in that game. I think from now onwards, we must be honest with ourselves as a batting unit and realize that we are not at the same level with the batting unit as we are with the bowling unit. So, in that manner, give yourself the best chance of winning games by playing to your strengths. And that is bowling teams out when the ball is most dangerous. South
Exactly.
Africa, unless the conditions are telling you something completely different. But in this particular case, the conditions told you, even though it wasn't swing, the conditions still told you that they could be. And the conditions still told you that it's bowling conditions. And that's when you have to switch your mentality. If they came down to Old Trafford on day one to a scorching day in Old Trafford, then I wouldn't have any criticism over this. But I've said it consistently on this show, and I'm going to say it again. And I'm a strong believer of it. Rory mentions Shukri Conrad also saying this as well. Play according to the conditions. The conditions determine the way you're going to play
Yes.
cricket. That is the one thing that we can never ever get rid of, no matter what style of cricket we want to play. We can try to play this attractive brand, we can try to smack sixes all over the show. At the end of the day, that still the conditions are going to determine whether how you're going to succeed or how you're not going to succeed. They cricket is cricket is a crazy game. But what are your thoughts on with regards to that, Lorenzo and Aaron? I want to hear your thoughts on Dean Alger's thoughts as well with regards to that.
Y- Yeah, I agree with Dean. I think the two spinners was the right call. But we lost the game with our batting. I think we lost it there. So we, I just feel that Dean Elgar sometimes is trying to be a bit too macho. I feel because even in the interview sometimes he says no, I'm a batting first captain. I think you should read conditions, and I think you must stop this macho-ness of him. Um, yes, his opening batters is like that, and he's a gritty type of batsman. But unfortunately, you don't have. I'm going to say this again. You don't have Faf du Plessis there. You don't have Abel de Villiers or Ashim Amla, or even to a certain extent JP Dumini de Bavuma. They're not there. So you must stop being so macho. Play the conditions. Yes, it's dry and the pitch is dry, but conditions tell you it's Manchester. Come on, guys. It's overcast. It's gonna move. It's gonna swing. And as I said yesterday, even Nick Knight was surprised when Dean Elgar said, "No, we're batting first." I was also surprised. But just coming back to our betting, Khalid, I just feel now.
But
I
Lorenzo,
think
that goes back. Sorry, that goes back to
yeah,
my talk about captaincy again. When I said my criticisms about AB de Villiers in the past was that as a captain, and his coach as a kid, as a teenager, confirmed that with us. It's the ability to be able to make difficult calls under pressure. When they get given a list of this is how things should be, this is the lineup you should bowl, this is what you're going to do, this is the strategy, we very often go against that. In the past we haven't really done that until we got captains like the fact like Faf du Plessis, who started doing things that were a little bit different. He started changing
yes,
things on the field, and sometimes the commentators would even think, what are they doing over here, so but sometimes we get almost duped or fooled into thinking that that we can maybe be a little bit clever. The second spinner
yes,
was only smart enough if you're going to get to day 3, 4. That was the only time that it was really going to count. But to get to day 3, 4, you need to
you need to
bat
score
first
runs.
properly. And
Exactly.
we're not doing that at the moment. We have a serious issue with our batting lineup. And my thing is always about synergy between the lineup, because if you're not in form, you must be able to find other ways to get off the strike. That's very important. That's why me and Aditya spoke very, very long and hard. South Africa have a very fit um, mentality with regards to running between the wickets. That's another way to take pressure off you if you're struggling as a batter. Not
Mm.
standing on one end and absorbing all this pressure when you're facing world class
Like we
bowlers.
did today. That
Yes.
happened today, which was ridiculous.
It happens
Like
every innings, bro.
that's
Every
where I
innings we
have
bat.
massive.
That's how Sarl and Alga bat. They bat like that. And I'm fine with one of them batting like that. But I've
That's
always
where
said I want a little bit of a balance.
that's where I have massive respect for Ben Folks. I think yesterday that grew a lot because he was rotating the strike. He wasn't hitting boundaries like Stokes he was. He was actually rotating the strike and keeping himself in the game, letting the scoreboard tick over. And that took a lot of pressure off Ben Stokes as well. So to be honest with you, I never rated before this test match. I rate him as a keeper, but I didn't rate him as a batter. But seeing him bat yesterday, I was like quite surprised. I was really, really surprised. And even the commentator said that he's quite a decent. I mean, Aaron, you can come in here as well. They said he's quite a very decent first class cricketer as well.
Yeah, he is. He's averaging over 40 for Surrey in this year's county championship. Scored a big ton against my county of Warwickshire at Edgbaston as well in the first game of the season. So I've seen it firsthand. And yeah, I completely agree with that in terms of the way in which South Africa did get bogged down. Yes, Van der Dusen did have that finger injury. And to be honest, I have a lot of respect for him. To going out there and
Yes,
batting the way in which he did, it showed a lot of character, showed a lot of heart.
Never
That's what you
doubt,
want to see.
never doubted his character, heart, and
No,
determination. Yeah, never.
exactly. But that's what you want to see as a cricket fan. And as I said, full respect to him. It's a shame he's out for the third test, but fair play to him for standing up in that manner today. Unfortunately, the dismissal wasn't great. That sparked a collapse, and South Africa ultimately have been trounced in this match. But again, it is just the batting, isn't it? And it's the dismissal types. And we're talking about Dean Elgar's decision at the toss. And to be honest, I don't mind the decision with two spinners. I really didn't. But as we've all said, to be honest, you've got to take a game deep. When you're getting bowled out for 151 runs on the opening day, they didn't even last for all three sessions. They lasted for 2 and a bit sessions, and the game was done. Yes, they could have bowled a little bit better. Yes, maybe an extra seamer would have worked, but that's with hindsight. The real crux, the Achilles heel for the Proteas in this particular match was a really poor first innings and a collapse in the second, and that is exactly what's cost them in this particular test match.
Because I mean, England never necessarily batted amazingly as a unit. If you think about it as well,
Oh
they
no,
also
it was the one
struggled.
partnership. It was the one
That's the
partnership
one
between
partnership
Stokes and
that won them
Folks.
that game. Yeah, and what they
Exactly.
won in this game. So it just shows that good players can adapt. I mean, KP and Rassi also they yes they got stuck in, but they did run a lot between the wickets as well. They did a lot of twos, a lot of threes. I saw them do. Not all the balls were going
Yes.
to the boundary, of course, but that was the mentality, is just keeping the pressure on. And then it's almost like that they put Rassi pushed the pause button after the break, and all of that hard work was just unraveled. And that's why we don't like those breaks to come at those times when you're just about on the edge of
Yes.
like finding that threshold. But that was, we should never have been in these situations in the first place. It all started with poor batting, poor decisions with the bat and the top of the order. We are against
But
good
Khalid,
bowlers with a new ball in good bowling conditions. We are always going to be 2 3 down if we don't sort out our opening partnership and make sure that they can
yes.
get us on an average every single game 50 to 60 to 70 runs on consistently. We're going to put ourselves under enormous pressure. And I said this before the series started. And this is exactly what's happening, because even in Lords, we were put in situations where England could have taken the game away from us. We just got lucky as well. And luck plays a massive part in Test cricket too.
Yes, Khalid. But I think the thing is this. I think the whole top six must take responsibility. It's easy for us to just criticize Markram or Rassi all the time, but to a certain extent, the whole top six must take responsibility. Ervia, KP, Elga, all of them must take responsibility. When last did we score 100? I think the last time we scored 100 was Ervia in New Zealand, if I'm not mistaken. So the betting is
I'll
we
read you
in
a stat
trouble.
quickly. I'll read you a stat quickly that was posted on Twitter today. 2016, we averaged 42 point. This is obviously between the South Africa's top seven, right? Broken down by year, right? 2016, we had an average of 42.49 with 12 centuries. 2017, we had 37.91 as a top seven, 13 hundreds.
Sure.
2018, this is when I 2018 is when I 27 between 2017 and 18 is when I started writing stories about how bad our batting is, right? And I wasn't getting the answers and that I was getting, and I wasn't getting actually the support from others as well about this. 2018, we averaged 30.72. We dropped over half, scoring six centuries in that period. 2019, we averaged 28.66 with four centuries. 2020, 32.83 with one century.
Absolutely
2021,
ridiculous.
31.31 with three centuries. And in 2022, 31.49 with two centuries. Now, like I said, even when Aiden Markram came onto the scene, in those first couple of games, it was him scoring the bulk of the runs for our team against Australia,
Yes.
against India, against Bangladesh as well. He was scoring the bulk of our runs and not getting the support around him. Now, this is not an excuse for him, because whatever he did or decided to, I don't know what happened. India destroyed this team's self confidence completely. When Enoch took over as interim manager, they got destroyed in India. Didn't know what hit them. They all went on a spin camp trying to figure that out. Figured it out, but still had issues. Pakistan, poor batting, top six. Maybe one or two players that pull us out of trouble. And that's how we've been batting recently. We want to get back to the past of the 2017s and the 2016s, and even before that, where we saw like two, 300s on maybe two hundreds and a couple of 50s on the score sheet. That's everybody's dream to get there. Cricket's changing, like I said, changing fast. But when we make our selections, we can't just look at averages. We can't just look at most runs. We need to also look at conversions. We also need to look at match situations. How many times have players scored a run to help them, scored runs to help their team win a game? You could be, you could have a situation like today. For example, Kyle Verreynne we could have had a situation today where someone else, another batter, could have been in a situation where he was the only one scoring runs. He scores 100, gets his team into the lead, and they still lose the match. There's no pressure there that you're batting under. So we need to take into consideration everything. Where the runs are scored as well is important when you're thinking about picking teams for tours, because at the moment we have to pick what we have available and the best that we have according to conditions that we are going to. We need to start. We need to stop giving people the security the way we have given them security. If things dependable on where they are in their careers and where South Africa are in their careers. At the moment, there is no experience. I want to stop
Yeah,
hearing that from them
yeah,
when them saying that no, we are experienced, we got the age. Age is, like we always say, age is a number in both factors. We got age and experience that will increase and improve our team, like Ryder Lasso is doing to our T20 team. And then we've got age and experience that is added to the team that is maybe not helping as much as someone like Ryan like Ryder Lasso is doing for that team. So we need to balance it right with the right players and make a decision. After this series, I want to see them say, guys, we're gonna make a decision. I know we still have a chance of playing in the Test Championship if we win the series and all of those type of things. Yes, I know that's the aim, but I want to see a strong, definitive decision made and say, guys, we need to be honest with ourselves first and foremost. If this top six is going to continue batting the way they are, looking not even looking good at the crease is my problem. Man. It's not like they're looking certain at the crease and then losing their wicket. They look like they don't have a clue at sometimes. It's most of the
yes.
majority of the time they look like they don't know what to do, and that concerns me because that means they don't understand the game well enough to adapt it to the situation. And that's my issue with the South African batting lineup currently.
Can I just hop onto that if I can? And I ask this to both you two and, of course, everyone tuning in. If that is the case after this series, regardless of the result, because we're looking at the wider picture now, if you had a blank slate, right, with this South African top six, who would you select? If you could have anybody, forget who's in that squad right now, you can have options from domestic cricket, you can have options within the team. What would your ideal top six be in order to take South Africa back to those heights of the mid 2010s? Who do you think could actually take the Proteas back?
I think I think unfortunately it's going to be a rebuild phase again. I mean, because we haven't blood Tony De into the squad. We haven't blood Reiner van Tone into the squad. So I think it's going to be a rebuild phase again. So we're going to start from scratch again. Unfortunately, I personally, I would drop Markram. I don't think he should be in the next Test squad. I think he should get the reality check because at the moment I think he just knows I will get selected. Doesn't matter if it's T20 cricket, ODI cricket, Test cricket. Well, if I don't make a Test squad, I will make the one day squad and I will make the ODI, I'll make the T20 squad. So I think he's just very. It's easy for him. And plus, if we have millions in the bank, that doesn't help either, right? So I will drop him from the squad. I'll also say I'll drop him from the one day squad as well because he's not proving anything. The average 26 in almost 50 games. For me, I told my brother this afternoon. I told him that I'll bring Reiner van Tone into the squad in the next squad we have, and I will bring in what's his name again, Tony De into the squad, and just for a left field for a cover as opening batsman as well as a number three batsman or in the middle order, I will bring in Dominic Hendricks because he scored a lot of runs in our domestic cricket. Khalid, the guy, what must the guy still do to be selected? Why is he not in the squad? Dominic Hendricks is experienced. Yes, he's also 30 years old, but the guy is scoring runs in domestic cricket. A left field decision would be if you select a Riza Hendricks. But the thing about Riza Hendricks, he doesn't score consistent runs in 4-day cricket, but he's a left field decision. But I think if you select him, then you also go backwards. So I just feel it will be a rebuild phase to select youngsters like Tony De Marcus Ackerman, as well as Reinhard van Tonder. So that's the guys I would have a look at the batters and Eddie Moore as well. Eddie Moore as a backup opening batter for either Dean Elgar or Cyril Ervia. I think he will be a good shot as well.
Yeah, I think at the moment we also just it's easy for us to just throw out names, right? And say guys that have performed that we've seen, or that we've seen perform at first class level, etc. in South Africa. And I think that the difficult thing to do is to understand the direction that we're trying to go. I think there needs to be first and foremost the selectors, etc. need to first decide what direction do they want to go with regards to the team. Now,
Khalid,
are they going to?
can I interject quickly? Can I just ask
Yeah,
Aaron maybe this question as well, and as well as you? You guys know more than me when it comes to news and stuff like that. David Bellingham, does he want to play for England?
not
Because
gonna happen. Not gonna
I
happen.
feel yeah, but I feel that's the key though. I think if Victor and Pitson can have a serious conversation with him and tell him you're going to play, we're going to select you, you're going to play. I think he will play for South Africa. I honestly do. So I think he's the key for me. He's the key. He's the perfect batter for me. He's the perfect batter
In
for that number
hindsight,
three
he
spot.
is. In hindsight, he is the best option. In hindsight, he is.
No, but
But I
it's
don't
not
think
about hindsight,
it's not
Khalid. It's not
it's
about
not a
hindsight.
viable option. He's already said that he doesn't want to be. He's made himself
But he never
available
said he don't
for
want to play
England.
with South Africa. He said even do you remember when I said he said he don't want to play with South
Yeah, he's
Africa?
never
You
going.
said no.
He's
You never said it
no. He's
categorically. You
not
don't want to
going
play
to.
with South
He's
Africa.
not going to say categorically, "I don't want to play for South Africa." No, he's not. He's not going to close his options off like that. But he's made it clear that he wants to play for England. If England
Does
tell
he?
him tomorrow that he's made it clear
No,
that he
I disagree
he's made
with you.
himself
I
available for
disagree.
England.
I
I said
disagree
he's
with
made
you, Khalid.
himself available for
No,
England.
I've never saw it.
Yes, he has.
No, he never
Even
said he want to
even
play for England,
even
Khalid.
even
He never said it.
he said he's made himself available to play for England. He
Yeah,
has
but
said that.
with all due respect,
No,
we've seen this in the past. Duane Olivier said the exact same thing, and
exactly,
a few years later, he came back to South Africa. The door is never shut. And I'll tell you what, I mean,
exactly.
I would agree with that. If Victor can have a chat with him, I don't think.
Yes.
Where's he going to come in for England for the time being anyway? He fulfills Joe Root's spot. So I don't see why South Africa wouldn't select him if he makes himself available. But then again, that's not a good thing, is it? You shouldn't have to make yourself available. You should want to play for your country.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, I think Harley's just
Yeah,
having
yeah.
some internet
But
problems, unless he's just rage quit. Could be either or, to
yeah,
be completely honest.
but Eric, can I ask you a question in terms of South Africa's batting? Do you think South Africa should go with 7 batters?
It's a tough one. I mean, I quite like the balance in that first test, to be honest. I know it's a risk
Yes,
with Marco Jansen, but I think he's a very handy batting option. I really do. He's got 5 first-class half centuries, so he's no slouch with the bats. I mean, yes, he's probably not as prolific and potent as an option as Vion Mulder would be, in theory, who's a bit more accomplished as a batting option. But
yes,
when it comes to the balance of that first test, I just loved it because you've got not only can Marco bat a little bit, but it's also that 4-pronged seam attack. You've got the
yes.
swing of Ngidi, you've got Rabada who does it all, you've got the sheer pace of Norkia, and the left arm angle of Marco Jansen. So I loved the balance of that. So if it was up to me, it would be more of a 6-5 split. Khalid is back. There we go.
I don't know what happened, guys. Sorry, I don't know what's going on.
No,
Yeah.
we did.
So I'm gonna tell you what he said. Um, I don't okay, so basically this is exactly what he said. I don't know. I've never experienced that sort of pressure of cricket field, so I can't tell you until I've experienced it. But I feel I've worked really hard on my technique and have been hitting the ball well. So hopefully, when or if the opportunity of Test cricket comes around, I'll put myself and I'll make myself available to score hundreds at this level. I'm going to qualify and
Exactly.
try. I'm going to qualify and try and play for England. That's what he told me.
David, you're more than welcome to. I will not
So
be against that whatsoever. And if you want to come and join Warwickshire, contract's always there.
he's going to. He said he's going to qualify and try and play for England. Whoever comes first, though.
But when was
Exactly.
that? When did he say that?
Why that was back then already. Why I've made it open like that? Why I said it specifically the way I did is also to protect the player in David Bellingham as well in this situation. We need to be very, very sensitive and cautious with the words that were said. The reason he left is because he already had signed a contract for three years already, right? And that he had obligations to leave to go to do that. Victor Mpasang, there was a little bit of miscommunication because he thought that he was going to speak to David at the T20 competition. That did not happen. I contacted David. Me and David had a private conversation about the situation, and I tried to get a feel for him on what he felt at the situation as well. His agent was also involved in the decision, and he was giving quotes to other publications. I went directly to David Bellingham to get the answer from him directly to see where he's standing at. He's always wanted to play for South Africa, and that is never going to change, right? He's always going to want to play for South Africa. But they never gave him a certain path, and they never had a conversation with him about playing for South Africa. So by playing for Durham and because of the contract extension, naturally he will be able to qualify to play for England. But it's also something that he has put on the table as well. He hasn't said, I don't want to play for England. He's opening up that opportunity. Whoever comes to him first and
First,
says to him, look here, we want you to play for the country and we want you to play and show that initiative, he will probably reconsider at that point or discuss it from there. But
exactly,
he'll have
and that's what
but
I
they'll
meant.
have to, but there's a lot of complicated things involved with regards to that as well. So it's not
And
just as
that's what I,
easy and simple as
yeah.
that.
So,
So
I didn't say you were wrong, Khalid. I just said because that's what I also understand that
mm,
whoever comes first, if South Africa comes first, if Victor talked to him and you're gonna play in the Test series against Australia, I think he will play for South Africa. I really do. So I think that's just a bit. I think he holds the cards, to be honest.
and
But
but the difficult part about that also is I don't think you guys maybe know this from behind the scenes perspective. I don't know if you've seen it, but Aaron might also. Well, with regards to the contracts and stuff, if you show intent, especially with with the old callback deals, if you showed intent to still want to play for South Africa, it's almost null and void. They
Yeah,
try
it was
they
incredibly hard.
yeah, yeah. You can't even show intent, so you can't
No.
speak about it. Even if you're in South Africa playing domestic cricket, you can't. So it's very difficult for him to navigate his career actually, because if he shows intent that he's split it and he's saying both, I feel that he would say yes if Victor had to come to him. He hasn't told
yes,
me that. He hasn't told me that with his own mouth necessarily on record. He hasn't told me anything on record to say that. But what is important to understand is that you he will have a career decision to make, and that's obvious. If England need him, possibly they could do a great job in England's team. Actually, if you look at that setup, um, they will. I'm sure he'll probably go and play for England. But I'm hoping that in his hearts of hearts, and the way I know Victor, I mean the way I know Bellingham, the type of play is, I'm still holding on crosses that if South Africa do contact him, that he'd play. But is it necessary to go get David Bellingham if you have Ryan Rickleton sitting on that bench? I don't think so. That's where
Well,
I
I go
come
back to
into where,
the
where I come into
original
that,
question, Khalid. I go back to the original question because
which I
you
didn't
didn't
get to
actually
answer yet. Yeah,
answer. No.
yeah.
So if you had an ideal
So
top six, who would it be right now in the country of South Africa? You've got all of these options to choose from. We've mentioned so many names, and there are lots of people vying for those 6 spots. Who do you think would be best suited and the most adapted to playing Test cricket for South Africa and taking the Proteas back to the promised land in Test cricket?
you see, that's a difficult question for me to answer straight because
yeah.
it depends on what direction we're going towards. Are
What
we looking
direction would you
towards?
want to be going in then?
Okay, so if I would like to be going with a younger, more a younger
Yes,
team that that
yes,
can really learn from experiences that they faced. I think that the likes of KP now at the moment, with the experience that he's having traveling around the world and playing in different conditions, I think doing that cycle once is very important for his development, and it might be able to bring back a lot of experience into the rest of the setup. Let me start with the opening partnerships, right? Because it's very difficult for me to pick a youngster and throw them into the opening position,
yeah,
opening slot, because new ball bowling, as you could hear Ben Stokes speak about it, he said bowling that new ball on these type of conditions, it's tricky for anybody to be able to face that, even if you are in form. So they're going. That's where I get stuck on, because we've got so many great players in the past. Now, if I look at the list of top run scorers for South Africa in first class cricket, right? It's difficult for you to find any players over here that have recently been involved, that have played, that have scored a lot of first class runs, that have been involved with the Proteas recently. Majority are all players from the past, right? Which makes it very, very difficult. If I look at last season, you've got experience and youngsters performing, which gives us a big problem. Now, let me just take you guys through this because it will maybe change the way people maybe think about this. If I look at last season alone and I say Peter Malan, 601 runs, right? An average of 120, right? 200s and 250s. That shows that he has a good conversion, and it also shows that, and he scored his runs at various parts. But you have to take in consideration that his two big scores were at Borland Park, I think, where it was very flat.
Flat.
So you look at that from that perspective. Then you say, okay, who's our next opener? Now, number 2 was Bellingham. He's not an opener. Rickleton, not an opener. The next best is Joshua Richards. Now, that's a big shout for me. He's a
Mm.
right-hander. He's played with a lot of experience at the Lions. He's learning about his game. That's a big shout for me. I love his mentality. His mentality is strong. He's a push. He pushes to try, and he hates it when he hates to lose, and he hates to not do well. So I like his mentality as an opening batter. That's a star next to that name for me. The reason why I'm not jumping to Tony DeZorzi as an opener at the moment is because he's been flexy within the Cobra setup
Floating,
according
yeah.
to what they need. Yeah. So he hasn't necessarily played as an opener for the Cobras consistently over a long period of time. He's been floating around a little bit. So I would throw him into the number 4 mix, in my opinion. I think with him, Marcus Ackerman, um, there's other guys as well at the number. Wesley Marshall, you could say as well, but Wesley needs to score some
Yes.
hundreds, big hundreds, I feel, first and foremost. He scored a lot of 50s. He averages high, he averages 38 this season. But he scored a lot of 50s this season and hasn't converted, which is something that he's told himself that he also wants to improve. So that's someone that you can maybe throw in the future. But I think Josh Richards is someone that needs to be looked at, as well as Matthew Brzezinski. I think Matthew
Gretzky.
Brzezinski. I think Matthew Brzezinski as an opener has that. I would replace Dean Alger with a guy like Matthew Brzezinski.
Yes.
I see them similar in the grit and the mentality of being stern and being focused, pushing. And he scores. He scored 2 centuries, no 50s this year. So when he converts. That's always been Matthew Brzezinski's thing that I admire of him. When he bats long and he bats well. And he also has the ability to be able to shift and attack, which I like. So he does have the grit in him, but he also has the attack, the ability to switch and attack. So that's the top 2 at the moment, I think, as replacements for Cyril and Alga going forward. Now, mind you, I'm not talking about immediate. This is not immediate replacement. I'm saying this is after the cycle of the Test Championships is done. If we don't win this Test Championship, whatever happens with this Test Championship and whatever the result is, I want a reset. Because if we don't do well or we don't win, I think it's time for a recycle. Now, I'm not saying that these players go start immediately. It could be nice to have Dean Alge in the team to blood these youngsters in. Play with Joshua, teach him, and then switch. Play with a youngster like Matthew Brzezinski, and the team also learn dependable on where play them in the best conditions possible to help their game too. Give them some confidence first and foremost going into this. Not throw them in India in the deep end and spinning tracks that they've never faced before and expect them to survive from that type of horror. So I also want you to also try. I also want them to also try and play them in their positive ways. Then we come to number 3. Number 3, I think we got KP. I think has the skills to be able to do it. We've also got Hamza coming
Antondo.
back at 3, but we also got Van Tonda, who is a massive player. I think it's a big
Yes.
season for him this season. He needs to show that he can score in other grounds as well and be consistent. He's had his dipping season, and I think this is the next season is going to be the one that increases him, because I think now with COVID released and everything, these are outdoorsy guys that also need that for their mental mind, for their mental space as well. So I think this new season, normally these players will go through a dip in first class cricket. So we need to look over a long period of time of who the guys that are scoring runs. Number 4 as well is Tony DeZorzi. I think can bat 4, 5, 6. I think it's nice to maybe bring him as a number 6, like the Pope, like they did with Pope. England did with Pope. I think it's
Yeah.
good to maybe bring in a guy like Tony DeZorzi into the mix, bat him at 5, 6, get him used to Test cricket, let him play his natural attacking game, and then he can blood himself into that number 4, 3, 4, 5 slot. Because I mean, these are all guys at the prime age, because they'll learn now in their phases where they are learning about the game and about themselves. By the time they go through that cycle, they'll be in their peak, which is the perfect opportunity for you to really take it forward and drive forward as a unit, because these players are not learning on their own anymore. You've got a bunch of youngsters learning together. Keegan and Carl and even Cyril Earvier, what they learning together as a team. New guys coming into the team, even Ryan Rickleton, they came into this group as a group, as a young group, coming in together as a team. They learning things on the fly, sharing information. You can see improvements in their games as they're playing. All of them, even including Cyril Earvier, who I've always also spoken about. I said I'm a little bit worried about him at the top of the order against top world class bowlers. I know he can do it here in South Africa against our inconsistencies here, but new ball bowlers all around the world at the moment against the top teams. Mohamed Shami, you've got the Andersons and Broad, you've got the Starks and Hazelwoods, etc. You've got all of these guys that are bowling magnificently with movement on top. The Pakistan bowlers, another story as well, the way they move the ball around. And even you can see Bangladesh as well are getting some exciting players as well. So in Test cricket, we're gonna have an issue. We need to pick our bravest, as our toughest, our bravest cricketers that have a roof, that have areas to grow in, and we need to think about that going forward. When it comes to five, at the moment, I think that Bavuma is 4-5 for us.
Yeah.
I think Bavuma comes back into that setup, and that's amazing experience and amazing opportunity for Carl Verreynne. He is
He and Liver as
missing.
well.
He's missing that hectically. I think. I think that Temba is missing in this team 100%. I think that if Carl had Temba at that number 5 position batting with him, I think it would be a different story for both of them. 6 for me, Carl Verreynne is still there for me. I still see where he can improve. At least it's tangible for us. We can see it. So it's something that the coaches can look at and train out of him. And I do think that if he had a little bit more support today, he would have been a different player. He looked a lot more calm and collected today than he did in that. Obviously, we know what happened in the first innings with him. So I don't want to judge him on this particular game. Let's see how he does at the Oval. Then with regards to 7, I've been saying it for quite some time. It's between Vian Mulder and Marco Jansen. But at the moment, Marco Jansen is in the head of him in the picking order, in my opinion. He's already scored 50 or close to 50 in the test arena, showing he's brave, showing that he has the mentality for this game. I think that he's my number 7 at the moment, until we find a better number 7. Now there are some number 7s looming around or in the system as well that we can
Stabs.
maybe have a look at. Stubbs in the future, yes, but I think these youngsters. You see, South Africa sitting in a very. I always say it. We're very blessed because we have a lot of great, talented players coming through the system, but we don't do the right things with them with regards to PDPs
Yes.
for the future to set them up for what is going to probably be the best for them and not the best for Cricket South Africa. I'll give you an example. Sinetembe Klashile is my example that I always use. When I watched him at Kaya Majola Week, he put on a partnership of 300 runs with Jason Niemand at the Kaya Majola Week in a time cricket game. He scored over 156 or something like that. 130 odd he scored, and I think Jason Niemand scored almost a double century that game. They were amazing. And in that entire time cricket tour, they were top scorers. He was a wicketkeeper batsman playing red ball cricket. That's where I saw him, and that's how I said, wow, Sinetembe Klashile is a flippant talented batter. We might have found our next black African batter for red ball cricket. That was the words I uttered when I saw him bat. Then he came into the system, had a great first season for the Warriors, never scored a whole lot of 50s, didn't convert one of them in first class cricket, right? Then they bought him in the MSL. Oh, no, wait. No, they gave him a debut in T20 cricket first for South Africa. And I was like, but why are they giving him and we knew why, because the quota system at that time, everybody was throwing in numbers in the T20 system to bulk up the numbers. They threw him into T20 cricket. Then he got an MSL contract. Then he got a full Warriors contract. Then he was given the captaincy at the Warriors at the age of 20. Now, they're obviously seeing something in him. Now, I don't blame them for doing it now because they're keeping consistency. And Robbie P obviously knows Klashile better than anybody because he was on those tours watching Klashile at those Kaya Majola weeks. So, my point over there is that's poor planning with a player because you've got one of the best young black African talents in red ball cricket performing at the Kaya Majola week, showing what he's capable of. And then you go and throw him into a T20 debut, and he becomes a more T20 player. Now, people actually think that he's better at T20 cricket at first class cricket, which is a crazy thing to know that's the way he was found. So those type of things I feel they need to be improved. Also, the way franchises, like the provinces, deal with the young players when they're coming through the system and they identify them. Even if they don't play cricket, don't play in your first team, let them bat in the nets. Let them face these bowlers on a daily basis. Let them go practice with Lutus Pamlas and whoever the case may be who's bowling in their nets playing first class cricket. Let them practice in the nets at least. Let them play in the warm up games so that they can get familiar with the team environment, familiar with the standard from a young age if you've identified them. Don't let them toil away and get lost in semi pro cricket and give them that opportunity to be able to stray away from the game. Because playing semi pro cricket, I promise you, is not sustainable. It's not sustainable for you to be able to have a job out of that for a long period of time. So you can get easily enticed to have a full to rather get a job and play club cricket if you still love cricket, if your career is not going anywhere. But if our province sees there's a young 17-year-old, 18-year-old, 19-year-old boy playing semi-pro cricket that is really talented, let's get him on a plan to try and grow him so that he can get into the team in a 2 years time. It's not happening. It's not happening. I don't see it happening. And there's too many young talents that have been lost in our system. Like I said, Jason Niemann scored a 300 the other day in semi-pro cricket. He was also another player that was a red ball superstar, in my opinion. Had the patience, the time, gave himself time at the crease. It always looked like he had extra time at the crease. He did well at the Under-19 World Cup, and now where is he? Playing second division cricket. I mean, my God, man. Like Herman Rolfus, what happened with him? The fact that he chose engineering over playing cricket, where he had an opportunity to get a Titans contract at the age of 17, 18. Those things are happening to our players because they're getting sucked into other things. So there's a lot of things that we need to do, but right now we need to think about the characters that we pick for Test cricket. I think we need to go back into the drawing board and start picking according to format. I think that's what we need to start doing. I think it's the only way we're going to reset the rounds of the past, because I feel that at least then you'll be giving more talent opportunity because they're now spread out along across the formats. You don't have one player taking 2, 3 spots in the national setup. So I think we should need to look at it from that perspective and plan our way forward for Test cricket so that we can start planning not only per World Cup to World Cup, but plan to generation rather. That's what I think should be happening.
That was sensational, if I might just add. Must say, I think you've answered my question quite superbly there, Khalid. If I may just say as well, right, I know obviously we are centering the discussion around South African cricket. If I might just say so myself, can I just have a little bit of a conversation about England and England's bowlers? Because in comparison to that first test, it was night and day, wasn't it? The line and lengths were spot on. I thought Ollie Robinson came in, added an extra layer of zip, bounce, pace. Love to see him back. And a great stat as well. He's the most consistent bowler in terms of bowling good length deliveries. And any bowler in world cricket since the year 2000, 51% of Ollie Robinson's delivery land on a good line and length. So he was incredibly impressive. Jimmy Anderson, that ball to Dean Elgar this morning, the ball to Simon Harmer as soon as the new ball was taken, exceptional. I don't know how people don't see him as the greatest seam bowler of all time, but again, cricket is a subjective game. Stuart Broad, he looked up for it as well. And Jack Leach, I know there's been this whole conversation about the nature of the surface at Old Trafford, and we had the conversation earlier about South Africa selecting 2 spinners, but 23 overs, he didn't take a wicket, but 26 runs conceded, a 1.13 economy rate. I'm so proud of those England bowlers, in particular to come back after a really dismal display in the series opener at the home of cricket. I think the 3 Lions have done themselves proud. We've come roaring back into this series. We've given ourselves a chance. And to be honest, we have the exact same frailties. Both of these tests have lasted for 3 days. They're 2 very good bowling attacks. I think a full-strength South African bowling attack is better than England's, but this particular test has shown if England can apply themselves with the bats, the bowlers can get the job done and take all 20 wickets. So really impressed with England. Obviously, we've got to do it all over again at the Oval, but that third and final test in this series, it's going to be a blockbuster, isn't it? 2 incredibly good bowling attacks, 2 batting lineups, which, to be honest, are very fragile when they're at their worst. And yeah, it really is winner takes all, isn't it? 1-1 heading into the Oval. Couldn't write a better script, to be honest.
Yeah, and I'm gonna give us some times to digest everything and obviously do our planning before we get to the preview for the next test. There's a lot of game time to go till the next test
Yeah,
now.
there is. Yeah.
So I'm going to do some more research. I'm going to get into more conversations with Aaron off air so that we can really start to figure out to give you guys a better understanding of what we're going to maybe expect at the Oval, etc.
Flat
But
wicket.
also with regards to Leach as well, we didn't take him on. You had one spinner in your team. We didn't try to take him on and put pressure back on him. And that was my concern. And I know they threw Joe Root the ball as well. And that too. We should have taken him on a lot more. We play more aggressive against him. Because if you put that spinner on under pressure immediately, now it's all up to your seamers now to pressure back on them alone to now bowl the bulk of the overs. You don't have someone to maybe take away those overs and take the pressure. The problem with the weakness with you guys is that age of Jimmy Anderson and Stuart Broad. Because if you can survive the new ball against them, you put England into deep, deep trouble. Because if they can go wicketless and you can see them pass that new ball, then you're putting the pressure back on them. And we didn't do that at all in this test match. We played into England's hands 100%. You guys could just do your bowl to your strengths. And congratulations, because you were ruthless and you deserve the credit for that. Let's wrap
And
this
just
up. Lorenzo, let's get your last thoughts from you as well. You can
yeah,
make your last point and then also your last
yeah.
thing.
So just coming back to checklists, I think he bowled better than Keshav Maharaj as well as Simon Harmer. I think he was the better spinner in the whole test match, and we played two spinners, so it wasn't so easy just spec him, because I think he bowled in the line of corridor of uncertainty that must I go forward, must I play back, and he actually turned the ball as well to a certain extent. But just going back to the Proteas, Khalid, I just feel with you said Mulder's in the squad now, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So with Mulder in the squad now, I think that opened up a good discussion, right? Because I firmly believe if Mulder is in the squad, I think he should play in the last match. So I'm just gonna select a team here, and you guys can decide if it's a good one. For me, I think
Can't you
Yalga
keep
should
it?
play. So
Can't you keep it?
I just want to get it. I just want to
He's
get
so
it out now,
itchy
man.
to get the team out.
Yeah. So I would. So number one for me, Yalga. Two Ervia. Three KP. Four Zondo. Five Rickleton. Six Verreina. Seven Mulder. Eight Janssen. Nine Marats. 10 kg. 11 Nokia. So it was so easy to drop. What's his name? Marco Janssen, where he was one of our best players in the test match. So I think as soon as people say no, Ngiri must be dropped, we all know what's going on. They're just gonna know how can we drop Ngiri, but Ngiri must be dropped for me when Janssen come back. So I'll drop Ngiri for this test match, and I will go with Norkia at 11, and then the seamers will be KG, Norkia, Malden, Janssen, and your one spinner will be Marat, and then you make your betting along as well. Then you bet until Marat at number 9. I think that's a better balance for us moving forward to the last test match.
Yeah, unless Vian Mulder gives us a 2, like Lungi Giri will give us.
Nobody thinks the bet. He's there for the betting for me. He's a betting
No, but
all
that's what
around
I'm
for me.
saying. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Then Vian Mulder goes out for 2, and Lungi could also go out for 2. And then what?
Yeah. But I think,
Nah, I'm
but I
joking
think
with you. I'm joking.
the six betters is not working. It's not working. So that's why I'll say that with
I
Janssen coming in at 8 and Mulder at 7,
honestly,
I think that's actually a decent team.
Lorenzo, even if even if we pick 8 batters, bro, we're still gonna have the same issues.
You shouldn't do it at the Oval, though. I know we're going to cover
We
this
shouldn't at
in,
the Oval. Yeah, we'll
in the
talk about the
preview show.
Oval and
Warwickshire
then
scored
maybe
300
that's why I
runs. Though.
say that's why I said let's just first like do our research first before we start picking
Exactly.
teams, because I still think that you need to look at the conditions as well and see the Oval when you pick it.
100%.
Vian Mulder, I'm not going to take the county runs away and weigh it that highly and say, oh my god, it's amazing that he scored one double century in the county game on a flat track where every other guys also scored double centuries.
How do you know it was a flat track? Where did he
But
score
we
it?
do it for
You
Rickleton,
tell me
though.
that.
It was
But we do it for
incredibly flat.
Rickleton.
Leicestershire scored 718
Yeah, exactly.
for 4.
Someone told me that was there, that it was flat. I can't remember who it was.
Yeah, 718
I
for
was
4.
watching it.
Colin Ackerman and Vian Mulder record. Fifth
So I'll
wicket
take that
partnership.
with a pinch of salt because he also needs to score
Yeah.
consecutive runs at first class cricket as well. I mean, they're bringing him in every year, I understand. as an extra, but I don't think you'll see anything. As just
But
as
we
a
said,
replacement.
Khalid, but remember we said he must go back to domestic cricket and score runs, and he's scoring runs now. So he's doing his part.
Go back to domestic cricket and score runs, yes, and then he needs to come back. Why do always people always phone me when I'm alive?
All right,
Yeah,
Mr.
yeah. He
Popular,
needs to
calm
go.
down.
He needs to go back to
It's
domestic.
Victor.
He needs to go back to. I wish it was Victor. I would love to have a chat with him right now. Go back to domestic cricket and score runs. I agree with you, but I'm not talking about just a couple of 50s. He needs to do it. He needs to do it consistently because that number 7 position, he needs to be able to bat like Ben Stokes bats if he wants to get that number 7 position.
No,
Not maybe as
but I'm just
attacking.
talking.
Not maybe
I'm
as
just talking about the
attacking,
year
but
in now. I'm just talking about the year now for the last testments, not for
the,
for like
the,
for the future.
so why don't we do the 7-4 split that you wanted then?
Exactly. No, that's what I say. The 7-4. Then Marker must play then. But I don't want Marker to play. He must be dropped. So that's why I'll play Mulder because he gives you a bowling option as well. So
Okay, yeah, we can talk about that. Let's talk about that a little bit closer to the time. But guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. Lorenzo, thanks a lot. Thank you, Aaron, for
yes,
coming on the show as well. Smash
Pleasure.
the like button, everybody. Comment, share, subscribe. Click the notification bell for all future videos. Do all of those things as well. Also, download the latest issue of Cricket Fanatics magazine monthly. Every issue is 100% free. Straight to your inbox every month. Link is on the screen as well as in the description. See you guys. We'll chat to you again tomorrow evening. It will be a Sunday podcast show. So looking forward to just having a calm conversation about the cricket. But thanks a lot for joining in, and we'll see you guys very soon. Very soon. Enjoy the rest of the game. I'm sorry.
I was gonna. What game? What game's this?
Enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy the rest of the weekend, please, guys. Yeah, the game's over. Congratulations, England. Congratulations, Aaron. We'll see you guys again at the Oval. Peace.